2, 3, 4, 6, 7. So we 4 is good.
Approve the minutes from.
I second the motion.
All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Say aye. And then approved. Okay. First item is expert lawn and snow use permit. Our expert lawn and snow here.
No, but on the, this still, what we have is they still working there,
Okay.
with Pete, and we've got that getting there's there, so I think it's moving in the right.
And that's all that was for in this campaign.
That's what is to my knowledge.
Yep.
But
That's-
an email from Jake last week, I think right now, pressing, like we would.
So
Good.
is he right, the building? Or is he-
Not on it, so I think, remember
Again,
we,
that's not
yeah,
a-
told- but
that's-
we
that-
told
that's-
them there, you know, we
Okay.
would just keep using it as long as he.
Okay.
And okay,
I thought we decided counties.
Yeah.
Decision.
or us revoke.
It's
I
better,
mean,
right.
because.
Sure.
So otherwise, the
Yep.
building people are working with us, so.
As long
Okay,
as everything's right, there's no reason to have any hit.
I think that's the whole
Exactly
thing
right.
is like progress.
Yep. need to do anything?
Nope,
We give
but,
it a- we need to-
yeah, it is just kind of, I don't know, I guess I have to see. Right.
We just kind of forced to do something, right?
I thought,
And
Get
consideration
off.
action until September,
okay,
so. I think for right now, I mean, we can leave it on if you want, but I just feel it keeps it up there and so we know we're
Yep.
still kind of moving forward.
Monitor it and also rate.
perfect. Good ideas, thank you for, I assume you put that on. Yeah, so what
Well, I
we're-
wanted you guys, you don't need to
Thank
reveal.
I mean, that's not what I meant.
No, and I know,
Yeah.
so I
Yep.
want you to know what we already have. So you
Yeah.
kind of, and maybe some of those things will
Trigger something.
trigger new.
And I don't want to these things, your capable hands or his capable hands or something, it's one of the others. Unless, Mike or you, the planning committee, you need to be involved in this, right? And this planning committee forward and going. Nice, this, I mean, so with Kevin Costner, hey, let's build a cornfield, right? Just as an example. So something like that, we could look, some not on this, haven't been able to think. of it.
Looking glass idea, that's, been fantastic. I hope that really comes to. fruition.
And we're moving forward.
And
Grant,
then the end of the year, probably. That are not.
So any ideas on things that look at city things to? I would like that to kind of be in agenda, you know what I mean? 3, I don't have anything. And keep- If you're in and somebody, it'd be nice. And, hey, yeah. That makes sense.
It's nice. Park fairly busy. Whenever I'm driving by, people in there, so it's nice. We can get the flooding issue under, I don't know if there's different people that can drink. I don't know, it's just all under the water.
Has it been underwater this year?
Oh,
It's our sports park, and so we do get, and somewhere out there, baseball activities. They start in the spring. We have a lot over the summer. There's even some fall out there, but then, I mean, pavilions are rented every Saturday.
They have to be rented.
It's free,
Okay. Yep.
but we do ask, otherwise somebody else is gonna be using it. Well, I mean, somebody who wants it the third Sunday in August, you know. So they call up and we let them go like 2 weeks or whatever, and then call back just because instances where the family gathering and, you know. But literally those are booked almost a week. Sunday ball.
Nice to see the things.
We have seen where some of those people that were there are meeting here because they like for they bathrooms, you know, so we some shift there, but nothing made so. But for the most part, we of just baseball people really utilize that part. I think ball out there is really great addition. A lot of kids like that.
My son on a regular basis.
Yeah. I mean, that's what the Lions Club did there.
Because there's 3-point lines, it's a big, big
Yeah.
deal to go into the high school. And that's the out.
Yeah.
So
So
they
it's that turned out to be really there. So.
And the basketball part.
Oh,
Turn.
good. Go. So. So that is park flooding issues there for years. I mean, do you remember? But
Used to drive, when I was in high school, there's a boat landing. Drive our car through and let it flow through.
we have had vehicles stuck in the middle of there.
We could have a mud bug.
You think I'm kidding?
But the solution has been looked at, and it kind of depending on what you want to do, it could range in the hundreds of thousands
It's
of
just not
dollars
cheap.
to fix it. There's just, we don't have storm drains over there, so there's no drainage going to the storm that gets out, you
It's just
know.
all flat there, and that's below.
So, yeah, so we have some issues there, and then, Looking Glass kind of runs back through there, and so it's like we get a lot of.
Does it affect any of the houses over there?
We
Or is
haven't,
it
I mean,
strictly
other than the same thing, they get like a front yard that's kind of wet or
Yeah,
whatever.
the only
sometimes.
drains come into the development where I'm at, by Oakland, there's a couple of drains along there. That's a long way to go.
Yeah,
And
no,
and so we have had the engineers look at where the nearest thing is to try to get some of that to drain. But
You know
Put a
what?
Retention pond in there, dig a hole.
Or make a feature, a water feature.
Right.
That's, yeah.
skate park,
I mean,
ice skate,
Reliability would be the only thing I
That's,
would, think,
sure,
as far as having a pond there. 'cause
right.
Is it close enough that you could do a culvert under Meridian and go straight out to that low area?
that is one of the items that the engineers looked at. We have
That's
we have
definitely
2 or
doable.
3 fixes that were looked at and priced out, but they.
Slow people
never
down
really
from
went
doing
anywhere.
60 through there. I try and get out there sometimes. Makes it exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, non-35 speeds.
Yeah.
But a culvert might be the cheapest option, I would think, to drain that.
But it's been looked at, so if we want
I mean, I can pull out the plans at some point, so we have looked at it. I mean, it's in those plans, it's in the capital improvement plan
Yeah,
as an
look through some
item,
of that, yeah.
so.
Nice to see it busy, though.
Perfect. Well, like I said, let's keep this on the agenda. We'll just kind of touch base on it every week, and if somebody thinks of something, I mean, you said this 6 months ago, Paul, this is kind of what this meeting with this committee is for, is planning and coming up with new ideas and figuring out the future, so. Let's try along with our normal special. Approval of training strategies. Kind of go over what that.
So, was it in the packet? It wasn't, we didn't read it. It
I
was.
didn't get to the bottom of the
Okay,
packet. It
well,
might be towards
anyways,
the
it's
backside.
basically what we talked about before. I just inserted everything. The DDA has now approved it. and the city council, and we'll improve it next, but the planning commission. Basically just, I put in there the trainings you guys wanted me to put in there, and,
It is here,
so that's
Okay.
it. It's just,
page 78. Sorry to interrupt.
yep, that's right. It's just getting your blessing on that, so. Then whenever, there's a couple of trainings that I did put in there, that one, the building one, this one right here. It's a horrible date for me because of the election and stuff, but that looks really, it talks about like small, like people that have architects like we have, like the historic buildings and stuff like that. And I mean, I think it's all virtual, but I would love to do it, but I don't think it's gonna work out for me. with the-
I'm assuming it says wherever you are online.
Yep,
Yeah.
so that's a good one. And then that RRC one, kind of, it wraps up what we've been working on for years, and we got RRC certified, but it kind of talks about what leads into that, and that we're looking for, to be able to be ready when developments come in, which fall right into the planning commission. And it's a virtual training as well. It's like, I don't know, is it 3 or 6 different sessions or something like that?
See 6 on here.
So if anybody, has the appetite for doing something like that, I'm just gonna keep bringing them, and if you guys wanna do them, and you can't figure out how to sign up, let me know. There's a fee, the city will pay it, so.
I, like Scott, flipped through here and had all the building stuff, and then got to this page and
I didn't get that.
thought it was still part of the other pictures in this sense. I totally missed. Okay, cool, good.
6 to 7:30, understood.
All right.
Do you guys wanna make a motion to approve that training strategy, or?
I'll make that motion.
I second it. I think it's a great idea for us.
All in favor of approving the training strategy, say aye.
All right,
All opposed, aye.
And that training was the other stuff we just talked about.
Yep. All right. I'm gonna assume that the city ordinance and the zoning, it has to do with this law.
Well, there's some, it kind of spurred up some thoughts that,
Yep.
I know we kicked around the double driveway issue, and
Yep.
we've had a couple more of those come up, and then this letter came, and so, I feel like, it's not my burden to fix this problem.
Right,
So that's what you guys are for. You guys need to drive around, look at that neighborhood and see if you think there's an issue, and if there's anything we can do in planning commission to work on it.
okay.
Where is the?
It's, if you go down West Street, it's the, opposite of Iris Lane. It's like Josie Lane's back there, North Oakland.
I'm on North Oakland, so
Okay.
west, so come up west, take the corner
Your development
on the
is,
development on the north side.
yep, so Pingree Hills is the next, like Josie Lane section.
The south of where I'm at, is that the other side of it?
Or between Bates Golf Park and,
I don't think there's another street there, is there?
So
It's me, then a couple of single houses, then open land, then electrical, and then.
you're
Bates
on North
Park.
Oakland? On the way north end or before Josie Lane end?
Josie Lane.
So if you keep driving down your subdivision, it's Josie Lane is right there.
so it doesn't go off of, is it west after it goes around the corner?
Oh, that, it ends in a, roundabout.
Yeah, it's got a little
Oh,
cul-de-sac.
that's
there that-
Josie Lane.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
Josie Lane. So near as I can tell, that's what they're talking about, is
Okay.
somewhere in that area.
Yeah, there's people that have their toys out on the road most of the time.
Yeah, well, apparently these people aren't real happy about it. So,
Since they don't want to sign the name.
Yeah, signed in an anonymous.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you correct the problem if you won't speak
Well,
up?
you can still drive through the neighborhood.
Right, I
and look.
understand that,
I
but
mean,
it might be a
maybe
weekend
there's
when you
no-
drive through and everything's gone.
maybe there's no issue. Maybe there is an issue. But, we can't really respond to it actually either, since we don't have someone to
Big
call back.
commercial truck.
But-
Maybe an ice cream truck. Somebody works and now is bringing their vehicle home or something and leaving it on the.
So in 2014, I dealt with an issue down there at the end of Josie Lane. They actually wanted the second driveway at the time. to park their vehicle in, which was a commercial vehicle. So I'm thinking this is still the same situation, but this was 2014.
Reared its head again.
Yep, and we had, and this came up, the second driveway, they want the parking area, and one of the issues out there is it's a curved street. So if we allowed them a second driveway, we had to cut the curb, and then that affects your drainage, and then, so there was a lot of things in there. But I feel like it's probably the same situation. It sounds like there may be some other things going on out there. This is just more for, just to think about, do we want to allow people with campers to have them in their front yard, in front of their garage? I mean, in a little neighborhood, that kind of really does block things,
Do we know what the ordinance is as far as parking a personal vehicle, as long as there's a curb, you can?
They can't park in the curb street overnight. They're not supposed to.
And they can't have a camper set up on the street either. if it's
No.
opened up, Say, ready. for
But,
somebody to
if
go
you have
in
a
and
boat and a trailer, I mean, our ordinances, there's no overnight parking on curb streets. So that depends on how you want to interpret it. But, I mean, there's probably other ordinances that can be in place, or maybe there isn't an issue. Is what I'm trying to,
Right.
it's like kind of, as you see things, as you drive around town,
Yeah, if the residential area turns into a commercial parking lot.
yeah, I
Toys
mean,
and
how
stuff.
do we deal with it? What teeth do we have? You got to think about enforcement and what things we can do to fix it, or, is it acceptable to everybody? I
Well,
mean,
we have an ordinance that is that allows you to, I'm hypothetically speaking, we have an ordinance that allows you to, like, if you had your in-laws come, to be able to stay in a motorhome or whatever in the driveway for a certain amount of
Right.
time.
There is some limitations in there about that.
Right.
Yep.
Right, when you were asking about the camper, having a camper set up, I don't care if you have a camper set up for a day, because you're getting ready to go, kids want to have a sleepover and sleep in the camper.
Right.
But if it's 3 weeks, that's
Yeah.
probably excessive.
In my neighborhood in Oakland, that little, sprawling area, there's a camper that's there all year round. At the end of Oakland, where it goes straight, and I'm sure and the other little roundabout beside me, there's people parking that little grass island. They got all their trailers on the cul-de-sac and campers and stuff. And it's just like a constant in and out.
And I mean, it might be what these people are talking about. I really don't know.
Right.
But,
That might be just,
I do think that, it's something that when you see that, you can just drive around and take a look. And then, maybe look at other things, not just that. But when those things come, I'm like, okay, now what do I do with this thing?
Well,
So
exactly what
I
you
just
did.
felt like you guys should see it. So
Yep, perfect.
can't fix problems you don't know about, right?
Right.
feel true. Yeah.
So it almost
I
sounds
can
like,
check it out.
correct me if I'm wrong, we almost have the ordinance in place. If
I think there are some things, yeah.
Start
I'll
enforcing.
take,
it.
I'll take some pictures when I go home.
Yeah.
That way we have it for reference.
Yep, get some ideas of what you see. And we took some pictures of our own today. We get a lot of complaints about this one. And we get a lot of complaints about this one.
Those comes the opportunity.
And we're not, we're not.
Well, I know
picking-
where that's at.
We're not
Oh,
picking
yeah.
on anybody. We just get, there's certain things where we just,
And that's cleaned up some. isn't it?
right, that's cleaned up.
That's.
But this again, look at it, like, you got cars parked here, cars parked there.
Mhm.
So, I mean, our
I know,
ordinance should
that's-
be able to prevent us from having that, right?
I know
I
where
mean,
that
right.
one is.
Just that kind of thing. So,
Needs to go.
Well, so is there anything stopping them from parking there? And it's not a curb street?
right, it's not a curb street, so
Right.
we just have, I mean, I don't know what we have to, but those are things that you need to think about, is like, what ordinances could we put in place to prevent this? You
I
can't,
don't think we should be able to park on any street on the side unless it's marked for parking. I mean, curbed or uncurbed, because now we have a law that allows ORVs to travel on the road and the curb of the road or the side of the road. So if you got stuff parked there, they've got to go outside of the
Yeah, I do.
lane.
You do it by golf cart.
and then this one was the one that we denied, and then we made them remove their driveway. So I kind of wanted you guys to see this picture. So this picture right here is the house that had their actual driveway in it. So see, this is their house and these are their cars. This is the neighbor's house, this big one right here. This is their house and their cars.
Okay.
And this was their second driveway over here.
So,
So,
So they put a driveway on the other side of their home. Is that what you're
right,
saying?
and so if you look at this
well, here, let me
house,
see that picture.
so this right here is the other side of the house.
So it goes like that,
This is one car parked, yes, it would go just like, so this is the house right here.
right, yeah.
If you guys want to come look, it might be easier. So this is the, this would be the house right here. This is their house. This is their neighbor's house on that side. It's their neighbor's house on that side. So they had cars parked right here and they have a garage right there. Then they had a car parked beside the house. Then they put in this extra driveway and had cars parked right here and there's their neighbor's fence.
It's like they're running a business out of the.
Right, but I mean, is that what you want your neighborhoods to look
Right.
like? And though, that's what you gotta think about. It's not about this specific situation or, you know, and maybe we talked before about, we could make the special land use. If you had 4 acres, or if you had,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know, but those are, I mean, this lady was not happy. I mean, this is her driveway right here. These people put this in, went that way, had a car there and 2 cars over there.
and what's that other car?
Which one?
The
This
one-
one's actually in the new driveway that they built.
right, so they have 4.
That one's just sitting there
Just
in the
sitting there,
yard,
Yeah, got it.
but this, we don't, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
no, I'm.
not what we want.
That's an industrial drive, kind of.
So, and then, you know, I mean, I don't know, there's probably standards for how wide they're supposed to be or whatever, but. So that one, you know, that one, they actually did remove that now. They pulled it out. They grassed it and took care of it.
Is
So
that even? Or is it-
it's not been lived in forever.
Didn't look like that.
That's not had been lived in 50 years, 45.
I mean,
Really?
I've been here for 23 years and no one's been in it.
Which one's this now?
Well, and the original
It's
owners
down-
lived in it when I was in high
Oh, it
school.
looks like junk.
And they
It's down
sold it
here, if you
fast.
go down Lake Street and, it's right kind of on the backside of McClintock Park, right there.
You know where the Y's at for the funeral home? And
Yeah,
if
but
you
the
look just
crazy
to the
way.
right of it, just
Okay.
on the side, you can see it. It's right there, right
Now,
on that
these
street.
people, they put in another
Looks
driveway.
dangerous, actually.
They, no, and our ordinance requires that you have to get a permit. Well, they've been tagged now and they've been sent a letter, but this is, so their driveway now, this was their,
Turnaround.
yeah, this was their original drive.
And they just-
Now they put this in coming off of here and onto there.
Does it have
to
to be paved?
No, I think. that's
I don't know
commercial.
that,
Or
I
is that
mean,
just commercial or?
I think that's. commercial.
the commercial ones are required to be
Yeah.
paved, but,
So they made a circle drive in
Yeah.
addition to their driveway.
right, so they turned their front yard into a
Which
driveway.
is, if you remember when we were looking at, it doesn't pertain to this, but as we were looking at what other cities have done, that was an option that they gave, was a turnaround.
And so our problem is
Mhm.
enforcement on these things. So we just know, you know, we have people that are putting them in, people that aren't getting permits, people, you know, then we send them letters. And so, I mean, like I said, this complaint we got went back to a letter, led me back to a letter from 2013, where we were dealing with these driveway issues then. So I think that, you know, we need to decide, is that important to us or isn't it? And what do we want to do if it is? And I think that maybe other options, instead of just saying, you know, anybody can put in a second driveway, I think. that-
Sure.
I do think there should be some regulations
Yeah,
with
too.
it.
So understanding all that, does anybody have a problem with what they did here? Understand they didn't get a permit, understand it may not, and just,
I'm not,
if they
that-
came to us and said,
to
hey, we
me,
want to do this.
absolutely, I mean, to me, no, I don't care,
Yeah, right.
but I don't know what their neighbors think. I don't know what
Got it.
kind of issues it
Got it.
causes in the neighborhood.
Yep.
Are we bringing big trailers in
Yep.
here? What are we,
Yep.
what's the
Yep.
intent
Yep.
of it? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's pretty industrious for us.
And
Mhm.
right here, there's a driveway that goes up to the garage and there's another driveway, you know, on the other side. I mean, it's like, so how much of your yard can be driveway?
Where's that house located? Is it on First North?
McClintock.
It's on McClintock.
And this isn't about anybody in particular.
Right,
This is
I-
about
Yeah,
the
got it.
driveway thing and that this just happened again. I mean, this, it came up at city council a month or two ago. It just happened again, we get a complaint, we go out, we have to, do our thing, but how do you make somebody remove that?
Right.
And then we got another one that, when these people built their house, they turned in this paperwork, they wanted their driveway right there, going into their garage. And now, this is what we have. We have a driveway, basically the same thing, a circle drive
Mhm.
right there. But when they turned in their permit to build their house, and then when they asked us, we said, no, they couldn't do that, but
They did it.
now they're just doing it. And then we tell people, no, they go, well, what about so-and-so? They have, and there are probably some second drives that are grandfathered in that were here well before, but this ordinance has been in place for quite a while, at least 2015, maybe even longer. But I'm not asking you to take any action. I'm just asking you to think about it and help us with a solution on how we want to move forward with the double driveway, the circle drive, and at your house, if you want to put in another driveway, where would it be? But,
Because of the ordinance.
No, I
I'm
mean,
just
like, I
kidding.
literally,
but if you did, what would it be right in front of your house by the sidewalk?
I would, yeah, I would have
Right,
to,
I
I would
mean-
have to pave my front yard.
But
Yeah.
seriously, I
Yeah,
mean,
pretty
is
much.
that okay? Is that what we want people to
Right.
do?
Right.
And
It's
so
not what
that's.
Well,
it's-
I'd be okay with it because I can't get grass to grow there anyway.
But he's got a good point, but he
Dirt.
says he can't do it because he wouldn't want to. But his neighbor may go, well, yeah, I want to,
Right,
because,
right.
Yeah,
and you may look at it and go, I don't want that next to me.
because then your kids are playing in the front yards, your neighbors are parked there.
Right,
You know,
yeah,
So,
I mean, what if there's another house right there, and these people are doing all this, and there's kids playing in the next yard? Or what if this is next to the school and all this traffic? I mean, those are things that
Right.
we have to think about, because we're protecting everyone else.
so what options do we have for enforcement? We really don't have an enforcement.
We sent letters to those people on Lang, and they fought us for a while, but they actually did remove it. I mean, so what we do is we send letters, and then we go over to the, building department, or Dan writes a ticket, and then they fight it, we take it to court. That's it. Those are our options. And we've been to court on fences and other things like that.
Garages.
And so, I think, and for the majority of the time, we've been able to work things out with people, and give them the time. But, these guys, they clearly want this, their garage is over here, for whatever reason they want that, I don't know. But they don't have a whole lot of front yard left.
Right.
right.
And do I care whether they have? Oh, I don't
It's
care.
not very aesthetically pleasing.
But what do we want? What do we want our community to look like? And honestly, as this keeps coming up, I drive through the township and I'm like, almost everybody one driveway. Almost every, if you go down residential neighborhoods, one driveway. So it must have come from somewhere. And I don't know, I think in most cases for Lanesburg, it does not work to have that circle drive or the second drive. Do these two work? It looks like it, that is just all driveway.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I can
right.
I can understand if there's, more than 2 or 3 adults in a household. Like, for example, our family, we have 4 cars now.
Yeah.
So every once in a while, one of the vehicles has to end up being on the street for a bit so we can interchange and
Which,
And we all
I
get
think
in
on
at
the
dumb
street
hours
for a
and-
bit is, that's understandable, right? That's allowed, but you don't want a car, you don't want to come over at night to a semi on the street, So
Is
it's,
there anything specific in the ordinance about temporary parking, if anything, other than a residential or, regular vehicle?
I don't know or if it's zoning or that's
That
probably in
would
the
separate the
vehicle.
toys and the
Right, that's
ORVs?
probably in the vehicle code more than it is in our zoning. I think our zoning is really silent on a lot of that stuff.
Thought it wasn't something.
There's a couple of
Yeah.
things that are in there, but it's,
It might have been in one of the council meetings that I sat through that day.
Yeah,
Some
and
of
that's
the
probably the
damage.
code.
Right.
Yeah, the actual vehicle like
Right.
code or whatever, so
A
the.
lot of
code
it's
ordinance.
dependent on how you phrase or word it for the coverage to give the police the
Right.
teeth to be able to enforce any of it. Because if you got a flippy flop ordinance, they go into to do something to somebody or tag them or whatever it may be. And the person looks at the ordinance and says, I don't care about that. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, temporary is not all summer, but if you need to keep something on the road for a couple of days because you have family over, it's kind of different.
So it sounds like we have two issues that need to be addressed. One, making sure the code or the whatever is, like you said, has teeth, is specific enough to be able to say, this is what it is. But then number two, how do we enforce it? Because you said, these guys, you told them they couldn't do it, and they went ahead and did it.
Yeah, and one thing we could do, and I'm not saying that's the way to do things, but we could put stipulations on such things on the amount of property a person owns.
Sure.
You know, if you don't have over an acre or whatever it's gonna take to have that clearance, then no. I mean, we
Right.
use Tony as an example. He can't do it, but he'd love to.
Right.
But he can't because he don't have the yard and so forth,
Yeah.
so.
Why would you, I mean,
But now these guys, Dan sent them a letter just recently, told them they needed to remove this because, you know, we're in the habit now, we can cut and paste one.
yeah,
And they want to know if they can take that tree out and make this whole thing driveway. So I would assume it'd be like that, but.
And they already put it in illegally.
Right, but I mean, how do I stop them from parking like they are on the front side of their house?
and there is not an ordinance stopping that.
I don't know, I'll have to check with Dan on that just to see, but it's sort of an example of
Right, no,
another.
no,
It's
yeah.
kind of a driveway, but they're also parked in the right of way, which I'm not sure that's legal. to-
Well, if they're sticking their butt out in the road,
Right,
that's certainly a
so,
problem.
oh,
But if they're up far enough that they,
but I mean, I think that not any specific one of these is more bigger of an issue or anything to me. It's the neighbors that call, it's the, you know, the
right,
people who call me and say, can I do this? And I have to tell them
Frankly.
no.
it doesn't matter as much what we think, it's what
Right.
everybody thinks.
Right, and that's what I'm
Exactly what you
saying, for
said.
me, I mean, it doesn't affect me, I don't live next door to these people.
Right.
I don't know, you
Right.
know, and we don't have a curb there, you know, there's probably a lot of things at play here, but for me, I'm just trying to tell you that we do have an issue that at some point, we need a solution for, whether we're gonna allow the second driveways or not. And if we're not gonna, we have to be able to enforce it. And I think we have a mechanism, it's not great, I don't know what else we can do there, we could tighten up the ordinance a little bit, we could, you know. But we have two things right now, the zoning ordinance and the city code. I mean, the city code says, you know, no person shall construct, reconstruct, alter any driveway or curb. And that's the law, that's the
Right,
city
right.
code. On the public streets within the city of Langsberg without first obtaining a permit. These people were denied a permit, they did it anyway. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure there's probably something we can do here.
Well, there's definitely a leg if they want to take you to court. There's a leg. that
Right.
says, here's the
But then I have
paperwork.
to do the same thing with this one. Now, you know what I mean? So if I do this, then I gotta go take care of this one that just went in, that we just found out about.
No permits.
Correct, neither one of them had, well, these
The- the
didn't pull one,
Well,
those were
That's contrary
denied.
to the code. to the
That's,
law.
that's gonna make my neighbor mad when I put an 8-foot fence up over across this driveway because he doesn't think I share mine. So he can turn around his commercial vehicles.
Yeah, I was gonna say, didn't you have a commercial vehicle parking next to you somewhere at one point? Maybe I'm remembering.
We had a big semi that was parking,
That
like,
you were complaining about.
there was a
Consumers,
guy that kept,
Consumers,
consumers, yeah.
Tony he
Yeah,
knows that. He looks out his window all the time, sitting in our globe.
Yeah, I see that.
He was addressed last week about it, not by me, by the owner. And he says, you know, you only got an easement to park that truck here. Well, I only do it when I'm on call. Yesterday, he had it parked down on our grass next to his barn, and he took the rope down on the road. So consumers, don't give me no shit. I don't care for you anyway. I just soon use a candle.
so you can write a letter But then Dan gets involved at some point.
Right, Dan will have to,
That's
you
get
know,
enforced. at
so
some
they've
point.
already, Dan, you know, we worked together on the letter and got everything in place. And so now the guy has come in and said, hey, well, what if I take that tree out and just make the whole front driveway?
To me, that's worse.
I know,
I mean, that's-
no, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
So do I really want to say, yep, I guess you can do that? Yeah,
No.
I mean, no, I don't.
No.
And so,
Whose tree is it?
well, that one's pretty darn close. It could be the city's tree.
Okay, well,
I mean,
that's,
because there's the telephone
question.
pole, there's
Excellent
the
point.
sign, there's a telephone pole, so that tree actually could be ours.
okay, if it's our tree, then no, you ain't cutting it down and you ain't parking anything else.
I'll tell you, it's definitely our tree if a limb falls.
Right, that's the way to do it.
If you want to take it down, though, it's not our tree.
Right, exactly.
So how does that work? Anything, any tree within 5 feet of the road is, I mean, you just
Well,
said
the
it's-
right of way is
the right of way.
definitely, look at that
Yeah.
pole. I
Yeah,
mean,
no, I
now
get
that
it.
Mike says that, I'm like, that tree is definitely.
33 to
So
55 foot.
I'm
or
gonna
50
tell you
foot
right
is
now,
what-
if somebody called and was complaining that this tree was a hazard, they'd be blaming the city
Right,
Right.
because of where it is. If
Right.
it was back here,
right.
No,
I get it.
but where it's at, I guarantee you,
When
somebody
they-
would be calling us.
When they start getting serious about that, that's what they'll start complaining about, is that trees in the way, and the city needs to remove it. And good luck with that. No driveway, no improvements. That's what I'm saying is what we should be able to do. No driveway improvements, no extra parking, no trees cut that city owns, or you will be fined.
Well, we
sued,
already have an
whatever.
ordinance that says you can't plant in the right of way or tear anything down. People do both.
Right, I understand it, and that's the sad
But-
thing about it is we gotta be, unfortunately, a lot more observant to things that go on. in the
And
city.
for me, you know what? It doesn't really matter whether I like this or I don't like this. I just want to be, it's not fair for me to say they can have it.
You need to figure out what the neighbors are, not.
Yeah.
And be consistent. So.
Right.
you kind of-
No, and I
Yeah.
mean, and it's no matter what the neighbors want, if we don't allow the option to have a second driveway, at this point, my option is to tell them no.
Right.
We just don't allow it.
Yeah.
Right,
I
so,
agree with that.
but I mean, if we were to amend our ordinance to consider it or make it a special,
Right.
permit or whatever.
Right,
First of all, people that aren't getting the permit, that's not gonna even matter, because they're,
right.
They're
but the
gonna keep
people that
doing it.
do come to us and say, well,
Mhm.
what can I do?
Right.
But
That's where I would like to have a solution for these people. What can I do?
the more
Well,
we have go in.
Because those are the
we
people
don't
that are
do
at least
anything about,
asking
the
us
more
and
problem.
trying to do the right thing. But I mean, sometimes the answer is just
No.
no.
Right.
And it is what it is,
Well,
but
you look at this letter, and I'm just using hypothetically of the situation. This
The one that
letter, these
we signed.
people came wherever from and moved to Lanesburg by choice.
because it's beautiful and they love the neighborhood and
And now
Yeah.
they're complaining about boats, planes, and automobiles. Well, if there's justification, that's fine. But that's not what we want. New visitors, people coming here and then all of a sudden they find all kinds of reasons why they made a bad choice.
right, but typically if you live out in the country, you see that stuff.
Oh, all the
Okay.
time.
If you're in a
Yeah.
subdivision, you don't see that stuff.
Well, you should
Because
not
they have
supposed to.
rules to
Right.
make you keep your shit clean.
Right.
I'm just saying, so,
Shoot, I got property up north and it's just open land and I've got more regulations than I got in Buku's. I even have to get a dang camping permit just to park on my own property.
but I think that that's the stand we need to
Just-
figure out is we do say we're where the country and the city meet, but
Right.
what do our residents want? Do they want to see those, or don't they care? I mean, if you read Facebook, they certainly care about a lot of things. So do we survey them? Do we, just when these situations come up, have a public hearing, hey, say, what do
I
you
was
guys
just gonna
think?
say, should we have a public hearing on the double driveways at
Well,
least, just to get
yeah.
people's opinion?
I mean, I don't expect we're gonna have a solution today or next week, but in the last year, we've dealt with this double driveway thing quite a little bit.
Mhm.
And I feel like, there's been a lot of talk about it and
So I'm not gonna remember. I apologize. We talked about the double driveways 4 to 6 months ago. Is there an ordinance that says they can't do it?
yes,
So it's already in place.
Yep.
So is there not, like you said earlier, not enough teeth? Or do we just not have the enforcement down.
Or
Well, I
massage
can't-
the wording so
Well,
that
I'm
it can be
also,
enforced.
I'm also feeling the waiver a little bit from the
Then when I
ZBA
say
and you
that, yeah.
guys, and like, maybe you guys want to relax this a little bit. I'm just saying what, we have to, like, if I start hammering on this, right?
Right,
And then you guys go, we're gonna relax it.
right.
What point? What am I
Got
gonna,
it, got it.
So I kind of need a direction at some point, and I know that like the zoning board of appeals, Dina's on it and Jessica Bayer, and there were some other folks that, I think they all had some compassion for these people that wanted to put in their second driveway and not understanding why we couldn't. And so I think at some point, someone decided we should, and now we have people who are like, why are we doing this? So are we gonna land strictly on one?
Right.
The other, or are we gonna make some kind of a middle area where we can look at this for certain reasons? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
And
I mean,
then,
either way, though, with these two examples, they didn't pull.
They didn't pull
permits, or
permits.
they
Either of them didn't do
ignored
it was
the
right the
denial.
first
I mean,
Correct. So-
That's,
right, so both of them did not, neither of them pulled permits, and,
I mean, I could see where we could allow for a variance in, within certain parameters. And checking, I mean, looking at their plan and see if that falls into what deem acceptable, but
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
talked
either
about
way,
it.
without permits, like,
I agree with you that, that is true on these two, like we had the one remove it. They didn't get a permit. We, they came on to variance, took it to ZBA, everybody said no. And they wrote back, we still want a variance again. I'm like, no, that's it. Now you gotta go to some other court if you, well, our court has decided.
Yeah.
And they took it out, but I mean, that
Well,
one,
pretty soon, if you start having, you're gonna have nothing but asphalt junk. People
Yeah.
are paving or asphalt and stuff for driveways and their front yards. And I know I have a good place, I got all kinds of cars. And some of them sit in the driveway, but I do have one over on the lot because I got next to it. My dad's is there. But it is hard sometimes and you do have to juggle. I've only hit my own vehicle 3 times.
but you have the room, right? You look at somebody with a lot the size, I mean, what do you do then?
Right.
It's like, and at what point is your lot completely covered with vehicles and now you are in
Yeah,
violation of the
Do you
ordinance?
base it on frontage or do you base it on just what's
Total.
or
Yeah.
total?
How much space between you and the road?
Because you could have 2 acres going straight back and it's a pin. Like there's one piece of land on West Road right behind our backyard. It goes straight for like 300 yards. Right from the road, it's just narrow passage. It goes straight back. A
Supposed to be a
sliver.
subdivision.
Yeah, it's a sliver. But well, Kay's got enough land, but if he does a circle drive right in his front yard, it just looks stupid.
Well, I've seen houses, very nice houses in very nice subdivisions that have a circle drive in the front. I mean,
yeah, I mean, that's very common, like down by
Yeah.
Detroit, like in
Yeah.
Novi.
Yeah, it's well planned, it's
Right, but I
it's
mean,
paved, it's very
those-
nice, it's got features.
Those are all
That's different.
3/4 of an acre
well, get it. I get it.
lots, I mean, they have.
Right, and this one right here might be a bigger lot
Sure.
than normal, and so might this other one that has one, but I don't have that option.
Not now, no.
There's,
So-
yeah, in my development, there's no circle drives. It's
But
just
I mean, I think
house,
that it would be
straight
nice
shoot,
if you
house,
guys like
straight shoot.
drove around our town, drove around wherever you go on a regular basis and kind of get some thoughts and ideas, and then we can look at other people's ordinances, we can figure out, first we gotta figure out, are we good with it? If not, then which direction do we
Maybe we
wanna
should
go?
look at DeWitt. They have some nicer homes. There's some money in DeWitt area. I know they developed a lot of decent sized homes and taxes are high there. Chances are we could do a field trip or something and look at some of the homes and some of the design. Maybe get something like frontage or.
Right, and we can pull their ordinances, almost all of that stuff is available, so, I mean, we can pull those, I think that, I mean, I'm just really just trying to start the conversation that you guys start thinking about this a little bit more, and in the meantime, I'm gonna enforce these, and then I just need to know, kind of what direction do we wanna go? Do we wanna stay right where we're at? Do we, what do we wanna do?
Maybe
So-
make people pave it. people will back down if they're gonna spend $2,000 on paving it, they might not wanna do it.
That's kind of what I was wondering earlier when I
Make
asked.
them pay them.
I mean, we did that
Why
for the,
not?
we did that for the commercial stuff. Why not do that for the residential?
Yeah,
Especially if it's an extra drive.
Then if you're
Yes.
serious, you're gonna get the permits, you're gonna have it approved.
Right.
You're not gonna spend several $1,000s just to get fined.
Right.
So,
And have to tear it back up.
and
Right.
tear it out. So
Right.
if we say, yeah, it must be paved and approved, that's a whole different scenario. Otherwise, people are gonna expect tickets, expect to fight it.
And so our code, actually, like our zoning ordinance says in section 402, single-family residential lots are permitted no more than one ingress or egress access onto a public or private road. I mean, that's where this comes from. So. And that was changed in 2015, so it's on this thing, so. It's kind of.
So how? What do we need to do to tighten that up? That sounds pretty definitive.
Right, and I think we can, we just, I mean, I just feel like it's been coming up quite a bit
Yeah.
and more than, like, we went a lot of years where it didn't matter. And now all of a sudden it's coming up, so is it lot size, what do we got that's making it different? Or maybe it's just a weird fluke and, you know, maybe we're fine with it. But, you know, not sure yet. That, I mean, that was there, they didn't put that in, but these guys want to do that, I think that's different.
Right.
You know, so we'll send letters and keep trying to enforce what we have, but I mean, I got the sense that from the ZBA, you know, there was some conversation that they wanted to look at what we could do here and change it.
I think the gravel is just trashy. Like, you can find that in Arkansas, out in the country all day long, but if in town, we want a certain level of
Correct.
decor, of, you know, keeping things aesthetic and uniform.
Yep. I agree.
It's gotta look nice, it's gotta be paved. Like, that's gonna deter a lot of people. If we send out letters saying, from here on out, if you've gotta have your plans approved
want
and
to
it
say-
has to be paved.
Right,
Except
Yeah, you
Otherwise-
could really put another weenie in there. It's not only is that one got to be paid, but your original project has to be paid. If it's not-
Right,
Yeah.
Yes.
See, now you've cut a whole
Right.
different angle.
right.
Right.
Now it's,
You can do
oh,
it.
it's a big deal.
Right, you wanna put extra drive in, it's not freebie tall,
It's a
couple rows of
deterrent.
gravel, and it's going to
Yeah.
be architecturally designed, basically.
It's gonna be a deterrent for the kind of folks that have 3 or 4 vehicles and a 4x4 and a toy they wanna pull in and out. They're gonna say, oh, I can't do that.
and those people should live in the country.
Yeah, they shouldn't
I
be in
should.
the middle.
I definitely should.
Or have a big ass building, you can put everything.
Right, but I just.
The light
tell
bulb
you
turned
that
on, we
that's
solved all the
not what
problems.
this
There you
is
go.
Yeah, right, right.
I mean, I think that's the other thing that are we following that? Is that what we want? Do we want to see, you know, pole barns and four-wheelers and, you know, all that kind of stuff everywhere? Or are we looking at small little residential homes with, you know, quiet living? So, I mean, it just becomes problematic if you got somebody driving a four-wheeler around in their 50 by 50 yard.
Right.
So, I mean, I think that those are the things that we have to,
Yeah,
well, just like
It
the guy
happens
that,
all the time. All the time.
the guy that we denied the second driveway to that wanted to put up the pole barn. I mean, our ordinance backed itself up even further and said your pole barn can't be any bigger than the house you have on your lot. So if you got, you know, 1,200 square foot house, most people don't want a 1,200 square foot pole barn, right? So I feel like our ordinance kind of is protecting itself there, going, okay, well, you know, we don't really want pole barns, you know, so. I didn't write that, somebody else did that was, you know.
What is that ordinance, by the way, just within city limits? No pole barns bigger than, or is all of?
No accessory structure is bigger than the house that you have
In the city.
in the city.
So-
That's our ordinance. Correct.
and no, it's not the same as height as your house is, or is it height? You can go
It's
higher.
square footage, right?
There is a height limitation, but I don't know, I think it can go higher than your house, but I can't remember that exactly, but it's based on the square footage. So If you wanna build a big pole barn, it can't be bigger than your
Better
house.
start that down to the house first. See, now we're talking the same thing about driveways.
Right.
See, same
It
situation.
makes it
same
an
principle.
investment.
Right.
Yeah,
Makes you have to
that's-
take
Joe, that's
one
a-
more step.
That is a great idea. Anything must be approved and must be paved inside the city limits. That's easy to add. That's an easy thing to add that's gonna deter a lot of folks. Right there.
And we, I mean, at this point, we're just gonna keep denying them because they're not allowed.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
but it is, if something you guys wanna add to allow it, then that's something you could add that work. So,
I think we ought to give that some considerate thought for the next month and see what we need to do.
It would eliminate this little shenanigans.
Well, hopefully,
No,
it's gonna
Well, they
only,
go to court, wouldn't it?
they did this anyway.
without a permit,
And even if we
after
told them,
being
it was-
told no.
yeah, even if we told them it had to be paved, they'd still do that. And so,
the only way to stop it is unfortunately is to enforce it.
Right.
You know, what you have on the books that you can enforce. It's the only way to stop people from moving forward. And then like we're talking, putting up a little bit more variables to the point where you're gonna have a little more skin in the game instead of a
Yeah.
couple loads of rocks and a little bit of bulldozing.
Not being a
Yeah, anybody can
hardcore,
spend
no, you can't
$500
do it.
on gravel and just make a mess.
Right.
It looks like crap with the grass going through it. Not everybody can afford to have a paved driveway either. So
But expensive to pave my driveway.
I bet. I bet, man, it's not cheap.
So, I mean, it was basically just a conversation starter, so you guys could get an idea of some things that, you know, if we are thinking about changing it, then fine.
So is that something that we would write in, that we would have to write here the language of?
Yeah, Pete would help me or whatever, and then we would just, you know, start. I mean, or I could steal it from somebody else, other communities already have something.
I mean, I think on a pretty basic level, if we required any new driveways or any modifications to driveways,
Additions or.
required it to be paved, and then if your existing driveway that you have is not paved, then it must be paved. I mean, I think that starting with that base, you know, something around that basic.
That's a great
language,
deterrent.
I mean,
Well, do we want to do that? Or
What
do we
else?
want to, I mean,
Well, it adds property value when you pave the area.
And we're
rather than
talking-
gravel.
As well as we're talking about improving the city. More nice, neat paved roads are gonna look a whole lot nicer than
how many
dump loads of gravel.
driveways and lanes are paved? Or cement? And how many are gravel?
All the,
First drive.
I think all the new subdivisions are
We got
required.
four right
All-
from my house down.
yeah, well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, all of the driveways right around my house, including my house, are gravel.
Our development on Oakland by Bates, that's all paved there, except for the homes right off the road, that's all pretty much gravel. Except for 2 homes, I think.
So how many new houses would be going in? In that effect? If we said your first driveway needs to be paved or cement.
I think it would
Doesn't have
mostly
to be.
affect new or older ones that want to add or
Then
modify.
that's where I was going.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I don't think it would affect the new homes, because I think the new homes are maybe required to pave those onto a curb strip, but if you're,
at least in subdivision.
yeah, I don't think any of I don't really think we have new homes going in on streets that
So-
aren't.
So that house that just burned,
Mhm.
thank you for getting it done. By the way.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
That's fantastic.
Thanks for saying something.
Yeah, if somebody were to buy that lot and want to put a house, there, if we did that, they would then have to do a cement or pave for the first driveway.
No,
Well, that's
Well,
what he
if we
said.
add that language.
If we, that's what he, if what he
That's
said,
That's what we're
Right.
suggesting, is that we
Right.
would make that
right,
change.
and that's what I'm asking.
no, well, my point was, is if you had a gravel drive and you did do an addition, then you had to have both.
Have to do both of them. That's what I'm,
But if you
Right.
just put your house in and you put a gravel drive in, depending on location, of course, or curb street or whatever, it may be gravel.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think it's required right now. I just think the subdivisions,
But I like this, I like his idea the
Yeah.
most, the fact that,
Yeah.
yeah, you can have a gravel drive if that's how it was. But if you want to go start adding, any additions or alterations, you need to pay.
The
That
old
way,
and the new.
that way it's gonna be improving, yes,
Yeah.
regardless.
That way you don't have a hodgepodge mess, which, you know, we do have a lot of those drives that are like that. They just don't have enough room to park. And why? Because the lots are so small. That's the whole key. Inside the city, you got a lot of lots that are 50 by 50.
That's when cars used to be a lot different.
Yeah.
You're lucky if you had one.
And that's why all the
Right.
trees are so close to the road too, is when you really look at it, the 100-year-old whole trees, they had wagons and Model A's. They didn't have double lanes and everything else, so the trees got planted. Now the world's different. Now everybody's got double lanes and they want super highways so they can get where they're going that fast. And Lynxburg is changing. You know, people are coming from the city. They're wanting to be able to enjoy the country life, which we've all that's lived here for a long time realizing no.
That letter smacks to me of somebody that came from a subdivision in Okemos or Hazlet and is expecting the same thing out here.
Well, that's true. And to some degree, I believe that they should,
To
but
some degree.
others, no.
Yes, right.
And,
Mhm.
and
I think they must have driven around the area. So they probably had a good idea, but maybe
hope.
something has changed out there. I don't.
I'll
yeah,
take a
I
few
haven't been out
pictures.
there in ages, so.
And I'm with you,
Yeah.
Mike. You don't sign it, it doesn't mean anything to me.
Right, it's just,
Sorry.
well, Paula will verify it. Usually when I get one like that, I go,
Yep,
can't sign your name?
yep.
You got a problem? How do I address it to you? How do I make it specific? That's the big thing, but
I assume you guys want to see these when we get them.
Oh,
Yeah,
I would-
sure.
I would agree, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Fine.
if you guys decide that you want to do that, then that's fine.
Yeah, right.
I
No,
think
no,
it's
no,
great to
no.
bring them.
Yes, no, I'm sorry, if I gave the
No,
impression, but.
no,
but
you
it's-
didn't. I just wanted to verify
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know, that's.
Yeah, it's, okay, if you don't-
it's a
You don't
good problem
Like,
to
I
have,
don't know
but it's
what it is,
also a
I
good
don't know who
problem
they're
to solve.
complaining about, I just know
Yeah.
that, you know, maybe there's an issue, maybe there isn't.
You're gonna take pictures, Scott?
Yep, I'll take a few pictures and I can just put it in the email that we all, or the text that we all get, just add the pictures and say this was regarding Josie Lane.
Okay.
I can do that right now. Add a few. There's a guy right on my street, you know, kitty corner to me, he has a consumer, sometimes he has two consumers power trucks in his driveway. Sometimes